Hello and welcome to my first video ever. So a little bit about myself. I'm Brad. I'm 41 years old. I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD, inattentive type ADHD, which is also formerly known as Adhd. So I wanted to do this channel just to let people know my experience of it. I'm fogging up here. Yeah, my experience of it, what my journey's like, and hopefully shed some light on maybe some stigmas and help out any other people. So first of all, why is it called me ADHD and my starfish brain? Well, us ADHDers, we do everything with analogies. Our brains are collecting so much information that it is a bit like a starfish. Starfish don't have a central brain. They kind of wander along the seabed, and when one of their feet senses food, it will take over the body and direct the whole entity, the whole being, towards the stimulus, which is a lot like ADHD. So what can I tell you? As I understand it, ADHD is a neurological disorder. It's mainly an imbalance of chemicals. So ADHDers, we don't produce enough dopamine. So whereas a normal person, their brain rewards them with dopamine on completing tasks, with ADHD we can't really do that so much. We can't stand out long tasks, 2-3 days. It's not going to happen. I need a reward now. Hence my starfish brain not allowing me to concentrate on one thing, because I'm constantly dopamine chasing. That could be standing in a queue, talking to someone, that could be a latest type of fixation, a latest hobby, it could be anything. So it's very difficult for me, I can only speak for myself, I don't know other people might have different views on this. We're all different, we're all on a scale. So yeah, I'm mixed type inattentive ADHD, so I haven't got the hyperactive bit. So yeah, I wanted to do this video just to explain my experience. One thing that I didn't know was, well, I didn't understand ADHD. I always thought it was that snotty-nosed kid with food up his face who's badly behaved, and yeah, that was my impression of ADHD. But it's completely different. I went to a grammar school, I'll go into that later. I went to a grammar school, I've had some pretty decent jobs, but I've always struggled, and I've learned that I've had ADHD my whole life. I'm 41 now. I got diagnosed a couple of months ago. I haven't started meds yet. That's the next step for me, so I thought part of this would be seeing me not on meds, and my views and feelings on the meds when I'm on them. I am going to try meds because it's worth giving a go, and maybe it will help me out. So what's my experience of ADHD? Actually, I'm going to go for my diagnosis. So throughout my life, I've always tried to better myself. I have therapy just to try and better understand myself. I think it's a great thing for people to do. So I had no idea about ADHD. I used to kind of see people and go, God, I bet he's got ADHD, but never ever thought that maybe I might have it. So the way that I found out was my therapist. One day she said to me, have you ever thought about looking into ADHD? Because I think you're displaying some of the symptoms. And I thought, nah, not a chance, not me. I'm just a little bit oddball, I'm a bit different, bit scatterbrain, very creative, but also I struggle with certain things. But maybe it's a bit of laziness, maybe I'm not geared that way, but definitely not ADHD. So I went online, and you can do loads of ADHD tests online. So the first test I did, I came up 97%, something like that, and I thought, that's a fluke, I'm going to do another one. That one came out 95%, so that was obviously another fluke. So I did another one, and I came out 98%. So then I started looking into it more, and I started joining Facebook groups and speaking to other people with ADHD. And the more that I spoke to people, the more I started learning the traits, the more I realised that that is me. I have had ADHD my whole life. My mum also had ADHD. She passed away a couple of years ago now. She was actually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I now strongly believe it was ADHD misdiagnosed, because we have peaks, we have troughs. We can be amazingly creative. We can also be really, really down and depressed. We can have real bad lows and really big highs. So yeah, previously I did think that maybe I was bipolar, because my mum had been diagnosed with it. I did some tests and I wasn't bipolar. So doing these online tests for ADHD, I found out that it's undeniable. I've got ADHD. I've had it my whole life. It explains a lot. And that was really nice. That was kind of, at least I could, there was an explanation for the things that I struggle with. Keeping on track, going off on tangents, starting projects and not finishing them, having great ideas and forgetting them a second later. So I started doing some more research. I spoke to my doctor. Doctor told me it's a 2-year waiting list for diagnosis, and I was already really, really badly suffering with anxiety and depression. I was on meds for that. I didn't like the meds. I didn't like the way that it plateaued me. It took away the fear with the anxiety, but it took away my joy as well. So I knew that I had to do some more research. And yeah, so I spoke to my doctor. Doctor told me there was a 2-year waiting list. Funnily enough, when I spoke to the doctor, he asked me to get a bit of paper and write down examples and all of my ADHD traits or symptoms. Now, anyone with ADHD would know that's impossible. I can't concentrate for that long. I'm going to lose my chain of thought. Something else is going to give me a better dopamine hit than sitting there writing down symptoms, and I won't be able to keep on track. So there was no chance of that happening. Luckily enough, I've got a very supportive girlfriend, and she helps me in a lot of these things that I've struggled with my whole life but just didn't know why. So she started doing some research on private diagnosis, and she managed to get me a private diagnosis quite cheap. I'll say quite cheap. It was about £500. You can look at paying £1,500, £2,000 for a private diagnosis. So the infrastructure for especially adult ADHD isn't there, so it's very difficult. But I got my diagnosis and it was like a weight was lifted. It was amazing. There's an explanation, not an excuse, an explanation for me, how I am, who I am, what I do. And yeah, it was like a weight was lifted. But then came the crash afterwards, because I suddenly realised I don't know what ADHD is. You think you know what it is. It's hyperactive people running around, scatterbrain. I'm not that person. I'm quite calm, I'm quite chilled, but my brain isn't. So yeah, that was scary, realising that I didn't have a clue about the neurological disorder that I have. So through ADHD, I went into hyperfixation mode, and I learned as much as I could, as quickly as I could. And it's a pretty scary world to step into. It explains a lot, but you also realise that there's things you've been doing your whole life that you just didn't realise you were doing. Things like losing keys. I'm always losing keys, always have done since I was young. I used to have to wear a key around my neck, because that's the only way that I wouldn't lose it. yeah, walking in and out of the house 5-6 times. I'll leave, then realise that I haven't got my car key, so I'll go back, I put down my car key, pick up my wallet, get to the door, realise I haven't got my car key, go back in, pick up my car key, this time I've got my car key in my wallet, go to leave, realise I haven't got my sunglasses. I've got quite hypersensitivity to light. So yeah, backwards in and forwards in all the time. It's an ADHD trait. My girlfriend came up with a great idea before we even knew I was ADHD. I don't lose keys now. Well, I've never lost this key because I'm not looking for a key, I'm looking for a fluffy bunny. And being diagnosed with ADHD, I'm now working out more and more tools to help me with day-to-day things. Being diagnosed, it gives you another way to look at the world, to look at yourself, to go easier on yourself. A guy said to me, it's like you've been playing a computer game your whole life, and everyone else does really well at this computer game, but for some reason you're not as good at it as other people. Being diagnosed, it's someone telling you you've been playing it on the hard setting your whole life, and you can't switch it off of the hard setting. It's always going to be on the hard setting, but you can start strategizing to help you play that game a bit better, and also be a bit gentler on yourself, not thinking you're lazy, not thinking you're a bit dim. I'm hyper intelligent, but some things I just cannot do. I can't read books. I can read a page, get to the bottom of it, and I've read every single word, and I know I read every single word, but what they meant together, I can't do it. That's my starfish brain again. There's too many distractions. I'm sat in a car park at the moment, and you can see my eyes are flicking all over the place because there's people walking past, there's cars going past, there's a lot of distractions. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I've learned so far. I'm going to try and do lots of different videos. I apologise if I talk and go off on tangents. I've got ADHD. It's not an excuse, it's an explanation, and that's the important thing. I think more and more adults are getting diagnosed with ADHD, and it's not something you develop, you're born with it. It's a neurological disorder, it's also hereditary. But one thing that we do well when we're children is we mask. We do social masking. We see how the other kids are behaving, and we copy them because we want to be normal. But as you get older and life gets more complicated, it's harder and harder to mask. I've always said I'll never know what I'm going to be when I grow up, and I still haven't decided what I'm going to be when I grow up, because I've got a bit of a child's brain in a way. Not in a bad way. I love my brain, I wouldn't swap it for anything, but it's a bit different, and I've only got one option but to embrace that, and I do, and I just need to learn how to manage my ADHD brain now. It can be great fun, it can be not great fun. See, now I've lost the track of where I was going because there's so many things going on around me, and this is a typical part of ADHD. You can get halfway through something, explaining something, and you completely lose track because the other four starfish legs in my brain are getting other stimulus, and they're searching for dopamine the whole time. So where was I? This is brilliant. This is a classic example. Yeah, it's like having almost like a childish brain. No, not childish, more. So you've heard of hunter-gatherer, right? So people say we were hunter-gatherers. We weren't. We were hunters or gatherers. There were two types of humans, as I understand it. The gatherers were farmers. They would build huts, they would sow the seeds at the right time of the year to grow the crops because they knew when the rains were coming and when the sun was coming, and they would plan ahead. They would learn from past experiences, so they can manage multiple kind of time frames in a way. Now that's the gatherers. The hunters, very alert. They would be walking across a savannah or through a jungle or whatever, and their senses are in tune to everything, every little sound, every movement out the corner of your eye, which made us great hunters. So basically, I think ADHDers are a bit of a throwback to early man. A lot of people with technological advances and stuff, gatherers have done great. Hunters not so much. But yeah, this is what I've learned about ADHD. So I hope you like this. I'm babbling on. I don't want this to go on too long, so I'm going to end this here. I'd be really interested in what you guys think about this video. Is there anything that you'd like me to talk about? Is there anything you'd like to discuss? Has it helped? Let me know. Do you think that you might have ADHD? Have you been recently diagnosed? Yeah, let me know, guys. I'm going to try and do one of these videos quite often, and yeah, I hope it helps some of you out there and gets you some explanation, some understanding, and knowing that, you know what, I'm 41, I've only just been diagnosed. It's not too late to find out these things. So yeah, good luck if you have got ADHD. If you've got a partner that's got ADHD, maybe this will help. Yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks a lot. Speak to you soon.